Hello, folks. Welcome to the channel where I talk about web, node, and developer productivity related tools. Today, I'm going to start a series on HTML, the absolute basics of HTML, and I'll eventually go to the very advanced topics in HTML. There is nothing as such like uh, basics and advanced as far as HTML is considered because HTML has to have some sort of CSS and JavaScript in order to make your application look really good. Okay, but I'm going to talk about today is the very first line of your HTML, right? Which is doc type. So there has been lots of confusion I have seen in the developer community whether we still need doc type. What is doc type? Why do we need it? What does it do? So I'll try to address all these questions in this video. Okay. So what is doc type first of all? If you want to know and read on your own, you can go to this site. I'll leave all these links into the link in the description. Okay, but doc type were introduced after the web standardization community, that is W3C, started to standardize the web, uh, overall web like CSS, HTML, and JavaScript, right? But browsers actually existed even before the standardization started. The primary browsers that existed were Netscape Navigator and Internet Explorer. Now the problem is I created its own set of rules about how image should look, how li should look, how a table should look, what should be the default margins, paddings, and everything, right? Netscape also had its own rule. The problem was these two rules were very different from each other. There was no synchronization there. So if you are targeting Netscape, you will have to write extra CSS to make sure that it looks the same way in I as well as in Edge, right? And when these issues started, people realized that we need to now standardize, and that's when W3C was founded and things started getting standardized. Now the problem is there are still some sites that were developed uh, and written that would look good in both IE and Netscape Navigator. That means there are sites that are already working in the old way, the IE and Netscape Navigator way. Now the problem is if you simply get rid of those old default styles that IE and Netscape Navigator had and put the standard that W3C were specifying into the code, the old sites would break. And who knows how badly they will break or how good they will look, right? You can't predict that. So in order to overcome that, uh, they introduced something called as doc type. Now, in older format, there was nothing called as doc type. So it's given that if there is no doc type, it's the browser has to render it in old style. That is in IE and Netscape Navigator. If the doc type has HTML, it is called as standard type, and then you can use the standard CSS rules to do that. Now this created two different modes, right? The first one, that is the older one, is called as quirks mode. Okay, because it had its own quirks and it was coming with its own extra overhead. And it's up to developer about how they want to develop their site. Do they want to still make it look good into the Netscape Navigator and IE, or if they don't want to do that, they can simply go and use the standard mode or strict mode as they call it, right? Now, how do you switch between the modes? The modes are switched based on the doc type. Okay, and that's when the doc type is actually important even now. So the first answer to the very basic question, do we need doc type even now in the modern browsers like Chrome 91, 92? or even Firefox 88? Yes, you need it. The short answer is yes, you need it. Okay. Why you need it? I'll demonstrate in a minute. Now, once you define this exclamation doc type HTML, this becomes a standard mode. Okay, and if you don't have that, it becomes a quirks mode, right? Now, how do you find out if you are using standards mode or quirks mode, right? You can simply open your site, uh, okay, open your dev tool, go to console, and look for document.compat mode, right? This is CSS1 compat. If it is CSS1 compat, that means you are in standard mode. Remember, doc type has nothing to do with HTML. It has all to do with the browser built-in CSS styles. Okay. The only thing it has to do in HTML is just that first line of doc type. Okay, so the compat mode, if it is specifying it to be CSS1 compat, you are in standards mode. Let's take a look at what happens for quirks mode. So now I have this open. It is back compat, right? If it is back compat, that means it's a quirks mode. Now, what are the quirks involved here? Okay, let's go to the code back here. What I'll do is I have some extra CSS here. I'll simply do this. Okay, I'll have to hard refresh. Right. Now you see that there is a some little bit margin in between these two images. Let's take a look at the uh, uh, HTML first. These are just useless. And then I have this. Okay, I have two images which has align. Now remember, align is a very old property and you are not supposed to use it. This is I'm using just for the demonstration purpose of why quirks mod and why doc type is still important. Okay. Uh, so if you see, we have a little bit margin here, right? But if I go, I have exactly same HTML here, right? But there is no margin in between here. This is called as quirk, right? In the old quirks mode, you will get this margin. In the standard mode, you won't get this margin, right? And if I put back this doc type HTML here, it would go away. I can show that as well. Hard refresh. Just bear with me, guys, because I don't know. Code Sandbox had some caching issues. I see. It really is very stubborn cache. It doesn't reflect quite uh, instantly. Right now, it has gone. So these are some quirks. If you want to take a look at what all quirks are involved here, there are very few, but you can still go and try to play around with it. I just demonstrated you this, right? Uh, but there are other quirk related rules that are involved. And if you want to get rid of it, there are two basic ways to get rid of it. One is to actually uh, define the doc type, which is really good way in my opinion, because then browsers basically switch, and browsers don't have to do overhead of whether to involve the old CSS and new CSS and everything, right? Or the other way is to include something called as reset CSS. Okay, so if I include reset CSS, is this reset? Yeah, it's reset. So let me refresh this. Right, it has now gotten rid of it. But Why I don't recommend it is because you are basically overriding the browser specific CSS, which is not that good in my opinion, because browser will have to do double effort, right? It has to first apply its own, then it has to take a look at what CSS you have, and then it has to compute what is overridden, what is not overridden, and everything, right? So you are basically asking the browser to do extra effort. Rather, you can simply go to standards mode. Uh, yeah, that's it I had to talk about in this video. Let me know how you find this video, and if you wanted anything else to be covered as part of this video. Then see you in the next one. Bye bye. Thank you.